The words will never leave my mind. We found her, she's in a code-red, dark place, and we're trying to get her out.
There is absolutely no doubt that Elvis Thacker was going to be a serial killer.
They're getting ready to go in and arrest them.
Police say Elvis Thacker stabbed Detective James Melson with a knife.
You know, I want them to have to take responsibility.
Extra security measures have been put in place here at the LaFleur County Courthouse. It may be one of the more high-profile cases that LaFleur County has seen in quite a while. A young woman full of life and the center of a close-knit family is lured to her death by two brothers. Welcome to Unnatural State of Crime. I'm Jo Ellison. Briana Ault was 22 years old when her life was cut short. She crossed paths with Jonathan and Elvis Thacker, two brothers she knew from school. The night they took her life, they sealed their fate to a life behind bars. But more importantly, they took a woman from this world that would have made it a better place, a woman who was the center of the Ault Pyle family. This is the story of Briana Ault.
She was who I went to for advice, or if I did something and I didn't want my mom to know, I always drug her into it.
Bailey Bowman remembers her sister Briana Ault as her best friend, a person to get in trouble with, to squabble with, but as a person who you could always count on.
Colton was Brianna's favorite.
At 21, Bailey had her first child. Briana was happy to be an aunt.
Like, she would wake up and she'd be in the worst mood. She wouldn't talk to anybody. And she would come in, she'd take Colton, and they'd just be gone. And then she'd bring him back when she was done with him. And I'm like, okay. So she was kind of like the second mom.
In 2010, Briana Ault lived in Fort Smith, Arkansas, in the same home as stepdad C.W., her sister Bailey, brother Ben, and her mother Bethany.
My kids had to stick together. That was one of my rules. You take care of your brothers and sisters.
Briana was 22 years old. She worked at the Electric Cowboy, a nightclub on the south side of Fort Smith.
She was so excited. She worked at the front desk taking the license when you walk in the door, so she got to see everybody that come in.
In September of that year, the fun-loving home and close-knit family was turned upside down. Briana went to work on that weekend. After her shift early the next morning, and like she often did, she went out with friends in Fort Smith's downtown area.
And so the group of them would go to the Rooster downtown on Garrison and do karaoke and whatever they did. You hung out for a while.
Briana started receiving texts from someone who wanted a ride.
The girls said that they didn't know who was texting. It was just an ex-boyfriend.
Briana left her friends. The next morning, there's a knock on the family's door.
My husband, C.W., and Bailey were getting ready for work, and she called me and said, "Mom, the police are here looking for Briana. They found her car burning, and they can't find her."
Bethany and C.W. go to an area not far from the Electric Cowboy where Briana's car was found. Bethany says police were telling her the car was likely wrecked.
The officers there was like, "You can go get the car," because they're thinking, this is their story, they're thinking she's drunk somewhere, she just passed out somewhere, she's at somebody's house and all that. And of course in C.W. in my mind, we're like, no, we know Briana, we know this, something is wrong.
The family starts looking for Briana.
C.W. and I got on the motorcycle and we started looking. My thought was, we're just going to start driving. Where do you look? We went to popular places. We went to the Cowboy and got hold of Dwayne, that was the manager there. One of the things that they said was a red truck, a guy coming into the Cowboy, a red truck, and he lived over on Texas Road. And so we went out that way.
Texas Road ends in a rural area that runs along the Arkansas-Oklahoma border. Bethany and C.W. drive to the end of it with no luck of finding Briana. They stop at a nearby fire station to talk to a friend.
We talked to a guy that works with my husband. He worked in the body shop then. They called him fireman, and we standing there and they got a call. And so we're like, okay, we're just going to go home and we're going to look at social media and see if Brianna has checked in.
Bethany, CW, and their friend fireman didn't know it at the time, but that call was due to a body being found off of Texas Road.
And it wasn't probably 30 minutes after that Jared Copeland shows up. He was the main detective.
I just told her, you know, there was a young lady's body found murdered in a pond, and we're pretty sure it's Brianna.
He's the one that set us down and was like, we found her, and the words will never leave my mind. We found her, she's in a cold, wet, dark place, and we're trying to get her out.
A man who decided to go fishing off Texas Road in a secluded pond found the body of 22-year-old Briana Ault in the water. Now police were looking at who could be responsible. They needed the family to ID Brianna's body. Bethany says thankfully an officer who worked at the Fort Smith Police Department knew Brianna. He went to church with the family.
All that I seen of Brianna was her tattoo on her wrist that said Nana, because that's what she called herself, Nana. And so when I seen that, it was an automatic, I knew that was her, definitely, but he identified her, so we didn't have to go and do that.
Investigators pull Brianna's phone records and find out the night she died, she had been talking to a person she went to high school with.
They called that day and they said, we know who it is. And I said, so who is it? And then they told us Elvis and Jonathan Thacker.
And you know these names?
Yes, and at first it didn't click with me, but I said the names out loud and CW's like, that's the guy that Brianna was boyfriend, girlfriend with in Van Buren.
Bethany says she didn't meet Jonathan, but she met Elvis back when Brianna was going to school at Van Buren High.
We met him one time in the parking lot. That was one of my things. If you date somebody, I have to meet him. He just seemed like he was standoffish type. They never went like out.
Police knew the names of Jonathan and Elvis Thacker already. There were warrants for their arrest on file. Now police just had to go get them.
They have warrants for them for a girl that they had kidnapped, lured to an apartment and raped 2 weeks before.
Police zero in on the brothers. They were staying in Fort Smith with friends at the Tulsa Square Apartments on South 31st Street. The apartments are a few blocks from where Brianna worked at the Electric Cowboy and also a few blocks from where her car was found fully engulfed.
And so we had Detective Melson went and posed as a utility worker.
This is video from a police officer's stun gun as they enter the home to capture the brothers. They didn't go quietly. Elvis is seen stabbing Detective James Melson several times. Police deploy their stun guns and open fire, striking Elvis Thacker. Jonathan is removed from the home in handcuffs. Officer Melson receives medical care, and Elvis goes to the hospital. He's under tight security while doctors try to save his life. Jonathan is brought to the Fort Smith Police Department. At first, he isn't cooperating.
You don't understand the things I've seen when I close my eyes at night.
He then relaxes and opens up to investigators and says Brianna came to the Tulsa Square Apartments to give them a ride.
I didn't know that she was coming. I didn't know he had texted her. In fact, he told her to drive down the Texas Road. He pulled the knife out. I was thinking to myself, what the is he doing? He held the knife to her, said, do exactly what I said, or you ain't gonna get hurt. She pleaded and stuff. She said she ain't gonna tell nobody. She swears to God. He cut her, and I was like, it was what? Did you cut her? Then he held her down in the water. Then he cut her throat. He killed her.
Several weeks later, Elvis Thacker is brought to the Sebastian County Detention Center, the same jail Jonathan was brought to. The pair are now facing capital murder charges. Well, now there are several charges against the Thacker brothers: the stabbing of the officer, the accused rape and kidnapping, and the murder of Brianna Ault. Putting them before a judge and jury for Brianna's murder would take years. 2 separate states of law enforcement jurisdiction are involved. Some of the crime happened in Arkansas and Fort Smith, and then Brianna was driven over the state line into Oklahoma on Texas Road and was murdered. It was a frustrating process for Bethany. She came to know the day her and her husband went looking for Brianna. They were very close to finding her themselves.
You go with your instincts of, this is thinking in my head. I kept telling CW, we need to go by the water, we need to go by the water. He's like, what water? And I'm like, I don't know what water. I said, I don't have any idea what water. It just keeps going through my head. If you go the Oklahoma way, there's a little road that went off and there was a pond back in the trees. And that's where they found Brianna. I go through my head, if I would have went farther, or if I would have found her, what would I have done? How would I have felt? But because I feel like that was a safeguard also on my part, that we didn't be the one.
Bethany says as she waited on the brothers to go through the court system to answer for their crimes, she started demanding to know the details surrounding her daughter's murder.
We have since went to counseling, and we have since did the EMDR, and so I can talk about things and it's not an emotional upheaval for me. They made her get down on her hands and knees. They made her drink pond water, and then they left her in the pond. And then they took her off in her car up to Cedarville to an abandoned house, changed their clothes.
In the interview room with Jonathan, he confesses to driving with Elvis to this home in Cedarville after Brianna's murder.
You said something about shedding the clothes. Where will we find them at? Now, this is the clothes you had on that night, right?
And his.
The clothes he has on, the ones he had on that night?
Yeah. He's not wearing the ones he had on that night. The ones that he had on that night, he threw them off in the woods.
Where?
Up at Cedarville.
By the vacant house?
Uniontown, in the house, the abandoned house, the A-frame house that we was at.
Investigators find the clothes and what they think is the murder weapon. Due to the Arkansas and Oklahoma state line jurisdictions and multiple charges against the brothers, getting them to answer for Brianna's murder was a long road.
This process is irritating, draining, just, I want them to have to take responsibility.
4 years after Brianna's death, Jonathan Thacker pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. He would escape the possibility of the death penalty, spend his life in prison, and testify against his brother during his trial in 2016. According to court documents, Elvis's defense lawyers will combat the testimony, claiming Jonathan was obsessed with serial killers from a young age. As Elvis is brought into the courthouse, he lunges at cameramen. Extra security measures have been put in place here at the Lafleur County Courthouse with the Elvis Thacker murder trial set to begin. It may be one of the more high-profile cases that Lafleur County has seen in quite a while. An agent with the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations told jurors Elvis Thacker admitted to killing Brianna while he was in the hospital receiving treatment for gunshot wounds. He received those after stabbing a police officer. Elvis's defense says it was a coerced confession because he wanted doctors to save him. That's where the defense says a story no one has ever heard will be told.
We intend to present the relationship between Jonathan and Elvis and how that relationship developed over time. And Elvis has a history of taking the blame for things that Jonathan has done.
Elvis's defense claims Jonathan committed the murder alone. Though while on the stand, Jonathan's testimony put both brothers with Brianna the night she died. Brianna's sister, Bailey Boatman, has had a hard time sitting through this trial, but says it's something she has to do.
Every day, my son says, Aunt Brianna's not going to come back. He goes, the bad guys aren't going to come back, right? And I tell him, no, Colton. That's what me and Nana's doing every day, is making sure that they're not coming back.
After a 3-week trial, Elvis Thacker is found guilty in the murder of Brianna Ault. Bethany says one juror held out in sentencing, and instead of handing down the death penalty, Elvis Thacker received life in prison without the possibility of parole. Both brothers are now serving life for the murder of Brianna Ault.
From the very beginning, when we interviewed with you, Joe, I said I wanted justice for Brianna, and I feel like that today we got it. And I know that, you know, God was all over this, and I know that Brianna's dancing. I know she's happy, and she knows that I've been fighting for her, and I am just overwhelmed.
7 years later, the Ault Pyle family is still as close as ever, though a lot has changed for them. Milestones in life go by, milestones they wish they could share with Brianna.
Brianna wasn't there when I got married or when I had my twins, and those are really big milestones, I feel like, in my life that I wish she would have been there for, because I think she would have been proud.
And I tell the twins, Bailey's twins, all the time, and Brianna would just love you. She would have you all the time. She would just love the fact that there's two of you, you know, that type of thing. And one of the twins looks like Brianna, even though they're identical. One of them looks like Brianna's picture, her baby picture.
Even though the family has now moved out of Fort Smith, they keep Brianna close. She has a presence in their home.
I have her with me. I had her cremated. I wanted Brianna with me. I didn't want her somewhere in a graveyard, and I didn't want to have to, like if I moved out of state, or the stuff that goes through your head, if you move out of state, your kid is still over here, or that type of thing. I wanted to take my kid with me. She's moved with us. We strap her in the front seat and she moves with us. I mean, I have all her stuff, her hope chest, her clothes is still standing there. She's part of us. Her shirt that she wore at the cowboy, and then her little fluffy skirt, like I was telling you, that she showed up in with the socks. And so, and she had a big thing for Playboy Bunny. So over the years, one of the things I do at Christmas time is I look for angel wings in the Christmas ornaments. And so I try to always get her an ornament. She had a pet snake, Sammy. It was Ben's snake, her brother's, and then he went to college, and so she took him over. He's still here. He'll never go away.
Bethany says she's found peace.
Only because we've found the sources to get the peace. I found other mothers that's going through murders. I've made friends with them.
Bethany is part of a group called Homicide Survivors United. They meet to discuss their children's cases and to provide support to each other.
We're meeting, and then when COVID came along, it was kind of like everybody couldn't meet in a group. And so we kept in contact through phone. We're on Facebook together. We stay as much contact as we can. You need other people that's going through the same thing. Otherwise, you feel like you're crazy, because regular people that doesn't live this, they have no idea.
Bethany makes it a point to reach out to other parents when a murder happens, just to let them know they aren't alone, and when they're ready, they have people who understand. It's an act Bailey says is pretty amazing.
My mom has been the foundation for our family. My mom's been the rock. She's been who we all depend on. She's been there for us. She's the glue that holds the family together. I think a lot of moms need that. And so having somebody there to support them who's gone through what we've gone through after Brianna, she's blossomed into something that, I mean, I hope nobody else has to go through. But at the same time, I see her as just a whole different person.
That's the story of Brianna Ault. Her family keeps her memory alive by celebrating her birthday, keeping her possessions nearby, and talking about her often. Bethany says she wants people to know Brianna's story because it helps keep her memory alive. That's it for Unnatural State of Crime. Join me next time as we explore another unnatural case.